Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast. This is your escape for real, unscripted conversations about sports, hobbies, life, and storytelling. No scripts, no forced takes, just Man Cave talk. Now, here's your host, Dan Kasper.
Talking with our good friend, Mr. Hunter Baumgardt, joining us this morning, Brewers reporter, Fox Sports 920. Happy, first of all, Hunter, happy pitchers and catchers reporting, dude. It's baseball season's here, man.
Yes, it is always one of the best days of the year when you can say that the pitchers and catchers are reporting, and I'm sure the Brewers are going to be posting very soon that first pop of the glove from William Contreras or whoever they decide to post. So very much looking forward to that and happy that it's here.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, let's go back a couple days because we're about 48 hours now since the news dropped, Hunter, about Caleb Durbin being traded, essentially almost like their whole third base depth at that point. What was your first reaction when you saw that news with Siegler, Monasterio, and Caleb Durbin going over to Boston?
Yeah, it was surprising. I think that just initially when I first saw the news, I was surprised that Caleb Durbin was being traded. This is a guy who debuted April 18th of last year, took the team by storm and was really clutch throughout the season and into the playoffs as well. He really kind of made a name for himself, obviously finished top 3 in NL Rookie of the Year voting. He played really good defensively over there at third base and really proved that he could be a big leaguer. And so when they traded him away, I was puzzled and still am to some extent. Now, you dig into what they got in return and the pitchers and the upside that you have there and what David Hamilton can do, and you can kind of see a little bit of what they're thinking. But at first, I was surprised. And I think the most surprising part is this isn't a typical Brewers trade. They don't trade a guy with 6 years of control left who just made his major league debut, who they acquired in the trade for Devin Williams. Usually the trades they make, as we know, are the 1 year left on your contract and you're going to make big money. The Corbin Burns, the Josh Hader, the Devin Williams, the Freddie Peralta. So this was not a typical trade. It's really close to spring training as well. So at first, I was surprised.
Yeah, no doubt. I was like, we were on the air when that popped through, and I'm like, holy moly, I need a minute to kind of catch my breath and such. So, the return, it's Kyle, right? The left-handed pitcher coming in return. That's
Yep.
the big prize on this one. What can you tell us about about the Brewers' new left-handed pitcher?
Yeah, that is. In order for this trade to be worth it, in my thought and opinion, he needs to pan out and be a significant part of what the Brewers do going forward in that rotation. This is a guy who, when he made his debut in August of 2023, he was the top prospect in the San Francisco Giants system. So this is a guy who has the pedigree, third-round pick in 2020. He's got team control through 2030. He went to Boston last year in the Rafael Devers deal, so you know that obviously Boston thought highly of him if they're getting him back in such a deal like that when that trade was made in June. The interesting part about Harrison is he hasn't quite figured it out at the major league level. That 4.39 ERA sticks out. And he has kind of that four-seam fastball, kind of throws that slider curve hybrid. Still kind of looking for that third pitch, but last year in San Francisco, he was all over the place. He was bullpen, he was starting. And then he went to Boston and he went to their AAA team there and really felt like he developed a little more than what he had in the Giants system. I think the Giants kind of let him be instead of really working with him. And then he felt the difference in Boston. And I got to think that the Brewers organization is going to be even a step up when it comes to pitching development, as we know with Chris Hook and Jim Henderson in the pitching lab and everything they do with their pitchers. So I'm excited about this because it's, of course, a lefty, which you love, but it's also a guy who has so much potential and was, a top guy who the Brewers can get into their system and say, okay, how can we make this guy the best he can be, and how can we bring out that top prospect type talent in this organization? So
looking ahead, maybe for the future, staying with the pitching, Hunter, they got a lot of arms under control for a long time. Outside of Brandon Woodruff, you're looking at guys, I think Harrison's 2029, other guys are like 2030 and above. Do you think that's part of the long-term plan for this Brewers team is like they maybe just want to, okay, let's get our starters, instead of going into maybe every year, every couple of years, trying to add a starter or figuring out that, all right, let's have some young guys under control for a while and just have that kind of set in stone. Do you think this was a game plan from the Brewers that was a focus that they wanted to try to build on?
It sure seems like it. And I wonder how much of it had to do with last year when so many pitchers went down and all of a sudden you were Alvin Rodriguez and Tyler Alexander pitching in games in April last year, right out of the gates, right? And I wonder if that kind of shock to the system for the Milwaukee Brewers and the injuries they sustained early in the season last year kind of said, okay, we need to make sure we have a bunch of talent that we can pull from. And boy, do they ever. I mean, they, like you said, they're almost all under team control. The only pitcher really in that like top 10 pitchers in the organization that's not under contract after this season is Brandon Woodruff. He'll be your opening day starter, you got to think. And then, after that, it's Quinn Priester, it's Jacob Mizorowski. You wonder how Kyle Harrison and Brandon Sproat now both factor into what this team is going to do. There's so many different options the Brewers have. And as the saying goes, you can never have enough pitching. That it feels like that has been the strategy this offseason for the Brewers and in really just in the last year or so after getting Quinn Priester. Chad Patrick is also a guy who's going to obviously factor into this. You still got Aaron Ashby. Is he going to be more middle relief? I have a feeling he stays in the bullpen because at some point you're not going to have a 10-guy rotation. So at some point you start putting some of those guys in the bullpen. Does a Logan Henderson start to be a guy who you see at the bullpen? Or do they maybe send a couple of these guys down and say, okay, you're just going to work in AAA until we need you because there's only so many spots on the roster? So that'll be a fascinating thing to see. But you look at all of these pitchers and the Brewers, the Brewers rotation, the Brewers depth at the pitching spot might be second to none right now in baseball. And the great thing is it's not just now, it's for the future. So this kind of window, if you look at the Brewers, and honestly, they've had a window since 2018, so I don't even know if we can call it windows anymore. They're just sustaining success. But with these trades and acquiring these types of players and these types of pitchers specifically, it feels like it just keeps widening that window because at the end of the day, you need pitching.
Mm-hmm. We're talking to Hunter Baumgardt, Brewers reporter for Fox Sports, Wisconsin 920. So, the question that I think a lot of Brewers fans have now is who's going to play third base? And I don't know if you had a chance to look at some of the projections from baseball perspectives, but I thought it was interesting. They have Joey Ortiz 70% of the time at third base. Is that the likely option? Jet Williams is in there. Obviously, David Hamilton's on there too, but is it going to be a by committee approach? Does your gut tell you maybe do they still have a move left in them before spring training opens up?
Well, when they first made this deal, I was kind of like, well, you got to have something else, right? Like something else has to be coming down the line. You literally traded away your entire third base depth chart, and you just don't see that very often. Like it was one thing to see the initial report that Durbin was going to Boston, and then it's like, oh yeah, then we're throwing in Monasterio and Siegler. And so to me, it's like, okay, so then, yeah, who is going to play third base? And it's fascinating because what were we asking literally this day last year? Who's going to play third base? And Caleb Durbin definitely kind of obviously didn't take it opening day. Vinny Capra had a great spring and opened with the Brewers and was your starting third baseman, actually homered on opening day last year. But then obviously tailed off. Caleb Durbin played most of the time there. I think the Brewers this is going to be fascinating because a couple factors here. One, the World Baseball Classic is happening this spring, and Joey Ortiz is part of Team Mexico, Bryce Terang part of Team USA. There is going to be a big chunk of spring training where those guys are not going to be there. That means you get to see a lot of Jet Williams, a lot of David Hamilton, a lot of, you could even factor in Brock Wilken and Cooper Pratt, although I don't think they'll break camp with the guys, but you're going to see more of that, right? More of those couple of guys. I got to think if that's the projection, we're at 70%, Joey Ortiz at third. He obviously performed better offensively, Joey Ortiz did, when he was at third base. I got to think that they definitely will consider moving him over to third, and then maybe Jack Williams, whose natural positions are shortstop, second base, outfield. And I think you'll see him in all of those spots in the games in spring training in Arizona. But I think put him at his natural position at shortstop. Because if you say to Jet Williams, okay, we're going to not only put you on the opening day roster, you're going to make your major league debut, but you're also going to play a position that you've hardly ever played, if ever, at third base. I don't know if that goes as well. So I would think that it's going to be a little bit by committee, but the most likely outcome is maybe a Jet Williams at short, Joey Ortiz at third. The other option here, Bryce Terang at short, Joey Ortiz at third, and Jet Williams at second. So there's a lot of moving parts here. And what stood out to me from when we talked to Matt Arnold a couple of days ago was he was very much talking about the infield as a whole and wouldn't really talk about third base specifically. Like when he was asked about third base, it was like, we have a lot of permutations is the word he used for how they could line up that infield. So I think they're taking it more of a approach to second, short, and third. What are the players we want out there? And then we'll find positions for him. David Hamilton is going to have to get time as well. I mean, he has a significant major league experience. The last couple of years, he's played about 90 to 100 games. Now, the numbers don't stick out to you, but he's kind of that kind of scrappy, fast. I mean, the speed is what jumps out to you, 95th percentile when it comes to speed. But I think you're at your best if he's in that Monasterio role where he's the utility guy, he's coming off the bench, and you have somebody who can man those other positions consistently.
I think I saw you asked Matt Arnold about Sal Frelick, any potential there. Now, Sal Frelick, he's the best player of all time. He's my favorite player, so that's why I got to keep saying Salvatore is the best player out there. But what was Matt Arnold's response about maybe Sal Frelick getting some reps back at third base like we saw a couple of years ago?
Yeah, he was asked about that. That was interesting. He didn't shut it down. He basically said, yeah, when we get to Arizona, we'll have some discussions and we're open to that. Obviously, that was an experiment. 2024 was the big spring training where they kind of experimented. And that goes back to, this is like the third year in a row where third base is the big, and that again goes back to why I'm so surprised that they made this deal, because it finally seemed that third base was kind of taken care of. Now, is Caleb Durbin your quintessential third baseman who can hit the ball out of the ballpark at any time and just crushes baseballs? No, not necessarily. And that's what Brock Wilken is, but Brock Wilken hasn't played at AAA yet. So there's some time that it's going to take for him. But look, I mean, Sal Frelick, I think Matt Arnold said, I expect him to be starting in the outfield, and he's a Gold Glove caliber outfielder, obviously. So I would too, but I wouldn't be shocked if you just, one of these couple of days, sometime in the spring. He's not playing in the World Baseball Classic, so he'll be with the Brewers in Arizona for the duration. I do wonder if you see him a couple times there, but again, the Brewers are at their best when that guy's in right field, and you find a way to put other guys at third base.
Hunter, what is a good projection or expectation for Jackson Chourio, do you think, this year? I know last year a lot of fans were thinking, hey, 30-30, his rookie year, he was a 20-20 guy, and he didn't hit it. Obviously went through some injuries a little bit last year, but entering his third year, still an incredibly young man. What do you think is a realistic expectation for Jackson Chourio entering his third year?
Yeah, I mean, this is where you start to see, that kind of that we've seen kind of the stardom that he has and the clutch gene and just the natural talent this guy has. This is where you start to see the maturation into a kind of star to superstar, right? Like if he's going to be a superstar, this is when it kind of starts to happen. And his first 2 years have been incredibly impressive. And now he's got 2 full years under his belt at the major league level. I think that's a very significant thing when you talk about a guy who's continuing to mature, continuing to learn the game at the major league level for how young he was. I mean, obviously when he debuted. So this is a guy, I think a realistic expectation is to continue to build up. I think health is a big part of it. Obviously he missed some of last year with that hamstring. And so I have a feeling that if he stays healthy, those numbers are going to be even better than what you saw last year. I think they should be. I think the stolen base numbers could go up. I think the power numbers could go up as well. I think this team as a whole is looking to be better at stolen bases this year. It's interesting because they stole a lot of bases in 2024. 2025, it kind of went down. Now they revamped their coaching staff a little bit. And I wonder how much Spencer Allen, who's now the first base coach, is going to be helping with the base running and maybe get them back to where they want to be, because that's part of how they play it. I wonder how much Chourio is a part of that as well. So as long as he stays healthy, you can expect more than, I would think, 20-20. And if he does that, then you're starting to talk about bona fide star, superstar, that kind of talk, because it's in there. We know what's in there. And this is the third year in the league is kind of where you start to see that hopefully take off.
You mentioned coaching and such, and I know you recently talked to Daniel Vogelbach, and I want everybody to go watch it on YouTube if they haven't had a chance to listen or to watch it. But you got a former player coming back to the organization and such. How much of an impact do you think he's going to have with this lineup, with these guys, and the offensive side of things?
Yeah, this is an interesting hire. One that did, I knew he was a special assistant to hitting in Pittsburgh last year. I mean, 2024 he played his last major league game. 2025 he's already in the coaching ranks as a special assistant with the Pirates, and then here he is as assistant hitting coach with the Brewers. What Matt Arnold had said when Daniel Vogelbach was hired was, look, I mean, this guy played so many different roles during his career, whether it was off the bench, whether it was starting, whatever it happened to be, Laking come in, as a pinch hitter, whatever it is. And he's like, that can help when you're a coach, helping guys in whatever circumstances they may find themselves in. And when I was talking to Daniel Vogelbach, it really made sense why they hired this guy. It's not like he was the best hitter in the world. It's not like he was the best hitter on the Brewers when he was here in 2020 and 2021. But he really, it seems, and when talking to him, he knows how to work with people. He knows what's most important. He wants to learn not only how the players play, but them as people. He mentioned that a couple times when I was asking him about how do you prepare for spring training into a new organization. Obviously some familiar faces, but obviously a lot of new players since you were there, 5 years ago. And he's like, I've been watching tape, but I can't wait to get to spring and spring training and just learn these guys and what makes them go and what they like to do and what they prefer. And when you have a coach like that, I think that very much bodes well. And he also said, I'm just going to learn. I want to learn from not only the other assistant coaches, but also obviously Pat Murphy as well. And he loved playing for him. Now he gets to coach under him. So I think this is kind of the under the radar hire, and he was kind of a fan favorite. I mean, I know people liked him when he was playing for the Brewers, and I think you'll like him as a coach and when you hear the interview as well.
He's Hunter Baumgardt, Brewers reporter for Fox Sports Radio, Wisconsin. Make sure you're following Hunter on Facebook, on the X, Hunter B on air, and then go make sure you can check out his interview with Daniel Vogelbach on there on the YouTube station as well. Hunter, again, big thanks for joining us here in the Chippewa Valley and spreading your wealth of knowledge with the Milwaukee Brewers. Happy pitchers and catchers reporting, and looking forward to catching up with you again throughout the baseball season, man.
100%. Anytime. Always enjoy it. Thanks so much for having me, Dan. And yeah, happy baseball season, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. You take care. We'll talk soon. Okay, sir?
You bet. Thanks, Dan.
You got it. There you go. Hunter Baumgardt, again, Fox Sports Radio, Wisconsin Brewers reporter, joining us here this morning.